First contact in crisis. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Federation resembled a living aurora, its bioluminescent walls pulsing with the anxiety of its occupants. Ambassador Vina of the Luminary felt her crystalline skin dim as she delivered the news that had brought the emergency session to order. "The crystalline dominion has claimed another world," she announced, her voice resonating through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "New Eden colony is gone. There were no survivors." The assembly erupted in a cacophony of distress signals, some audible, others visible only in the ultraviolet spectrum. The Luminary had long served as the Federation's diplomatic corps, their natural ability to project emotions through light, making them ideal mediators. Today, Vina wished she could dim herself completely as waves of fear rolled through the gathered representatives. First speaker Zilvan, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate containment field, moved to the center of the chamber. "This marks the seventh world lost to these beings in the past standard year. Our defensive capabilities have proven insufficient." The truth of those words hung heavy in the chamber. The Federation, spanning over 300 species across thousands of worlds, had achieved peace through technological advancement and careful environmental engineering. They had created perfect worlds, each tailored to its inhabitants' needs, but this had come at a cost. They had forgotten how to survive in harsh conditions. "The crystalline dominion thrives in environments we cannot even approach," continued Zilvan. "Extreme heat, crushing pressure, radioactive wastelands. These are their natural habitats. Our environmental suits fail, our weapons systems malfunction, and our soldiers." The first speaker paused, grief evident in the flickering of their energy form. In the lower tiers of the chamber, Senior Research Director Kaya of the Arxos dynasty accessed the central holographic display. Her species, resembling what humans might call sentient coral formations, were among the Federation's premier scientists. "We have analyzed the Dominion's expansion pattern," she announced, manipulating the display with precise movements of her mineral appendages. "They are systematically converting habitable worlds into environments that match their homeworld, essentially terraforming them into Deathworlds." The term Deathworld caused another wave of distress through the assembly. Such planets were rarely discussed in polite company, worlds with such extreme conditions that most Federation species considered them uninhabitable. It was junior researcher Taz, one of Kaya's assistants, who spoke next. His voice was barely a whisper, but in the shocked silence, it carried clearly. "What if we found someone who could fight back? Someone who already lives on a death world?" The chamber fell silent. Vina felt her crystalline structure vibrate with sudden understanding. "You mean Earth." The name alone caused several representatives to emit distress signals. Earth was infamous in Federation records, a planet with such extreme environmental variations that it had been classified as uninhabitable despite hosting a sapient species. Its gravity was crushing, its temperature swings brutal, its atmosphere corrosive, and its biosphere filled with predators. And yet, its inhabitants didn't just survive, they thrived. "The humans," Taz continued, more confidently now, "live in conditions that would kill most of us instantly. They survive temperatures ranging from freezing to scorching. They breathe oxidizing agents. They drink acid for pleasure. And they voluntarily expose themselves to radiation for cosmetic purposes." "They're barbarians," shouted someone from the upper tiers. "They're survivors," corrected Taz. "And right now, we need survivors more than we need diplomats." First speaker Zilvan's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. "Earth has achieved spaceflight, though they remain relatively isolated. Their technology is primitive by our standards, but their biology, their adaptability. They would be able to fight in the same conditions as the crystalline dominion," Vina realized aloud. "They might even consider those conditions mild compared to some of their planetary extremes." The assembly buzzed with nervous energy as the implications sank in. The Federation had long avoided contact with Earth, considering its inhabitants too volatile, too aggressive, too dangerous. But now, those very qualities might be exactly what they needed. First speaker Zilvan raised their energy field to command attention. We face extinction if we do not act. The crystalline dominion will not stop until they have converted every world in their path. We need help from those who understand survival in hostile environments. We need the humans. The motion passed with unprecedented speed. Within hours, a first contact team was assembled, and a message was prepared. The Federation, in its desperate hour, would reach out to the Deathworlders of Earth, hoping that the very qualities that had made them seem frightening might now be the key to salvation. As Vina helped prepare the transmission, she wondered what these humans would make of their request. Would they understand? Would they help? And most importantly, what changes would their introduction bring to the carefully ordered society of the Federation? She was about to find out. The human factor. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the U.S. horizon, watching the Federation's diplomatic station grow larger against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. The massive structure gleamed like a pearl, its organic architecture unlike anything humanity had ever built. After decades of wondering if we were alone in the universe, first contact had come in the form of a desperate plea for help. Approaching final docking position, announced Lieutenant Rodriguez from the helm. Station's gravitational field is minimal. They're requesting we confirm if it's suitable for human physiology. Sarah smiled slightly. The Federation's message had been filled with concerns about their dangerous environment. Tell them we're fine. This is nothing compared to our Zero training. The Horizon was humanity's first diplomatic vessel, hastily repurposed from a deep space research ship. Its crew of 20 had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to represent Earth's diverse capabilities. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, all of them used to working in extreme conditions. Dr. James Murray, the ship's chief xenobiologist, joined Sarah at the viewport. Their atmospheric composition data just came in. It's practically a vacation resort in there. Standard pressure, minimal toxins, filtered radiation. They think they're protecting us. Sarah replied, remembering the extensive warnings in the first contact package. Wait until they find out what we consider safe conditions. The docking procedure went smoothly, despite the Federation engineers' obvious anxiety about their primitive technology. As the airlock cycled, Sarah led her initial contact team, herself, Dr. Murray, and Security Chief Diana Williams, into the station's reception area. They were met by an extraordinary sight. Different environmental chambers lined the walls, each containing representatives of various Federation species. Some floated in liquid, others were surrounded by exotic gases, and a few were merely shimmering fields of energy. In the center stood their primary contact, Ambassador Vina, her crystalline form casting rainbow refractions across the chamber. Welcome, humans, Vina's translator conveyed. We have prepared special protective equipment for you, given the station's harsh conditions. Sarah glanced at her team, noticing their suppressed amusement. Thank you, Ambassador, but we're quite comfortable as we are. Your environment falls well within our survival parameters. A ripple of what seemed to be shock passed through the assembled aliens. A floating entity, introduced as first speaker Zilvan, moved forward. You mean you can survive in these conditions without protection, but our sensors indicate the presence of oxidizing agents in the air and the gravity. Oxygen is essential for our survival, Dr. Murray explained gently. As for gravity, this is actually quite mild compared to Earth. We regularly work in conditions ranging from 0 to 3 times this level. The translator struggled to convey the wave of reactions that followed. Several representatives retreated further into their environmental chambers. Others moved closer, fascination overriding their fear. Perhaps, Sarah suggested, we should discuss why you contacted us. Your message mentioned a threat, the crystalline dominion. The chamber's mood shifted immediately. Vina's form dimmed noticeably as she activated a holographic display. They attack worlds like this, she explained, showing footage of a colony's destruction. The humans watched intently as crystalline entities moved through environments that had killed Federation defenders instantly. Waves of heat that melted standard equipment, radiation that disrupted shield systems, crushing pressures that shattered protective suits. This is their latest conquest, Vina continued, showing a world being transformed. Surface temperature, 180 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric pressure, 90 times your Earth standard. Radiation levels. Survivable, interrupted Chief Williams, causing another shock wave through the chamber. With proper equipment, we operate in worse conditions. Death Valley Training Center regularly exceeds those temperatures. Our deep-sea installations handle greater pressures. And those radiation levels, lower than what our cleanup crews dealt with in old nuclear sites. Dr. Murray stepped forward, examining the biological data scrolling past. The crystalline dominion has adapted to extreme conditions, much like various Earth organisms. They're essentially creating environments that match their biological needs, not unlike how we terraform, just more extreme. You mean humans have experience with such hostile environments? First speaker Zilvan asked, their energy form flickering with what might have been hope. Sarah nodded. Earth itself is what you might call an extreme world. We've evolved to survive and adapt to nearly any condition. More importantly, we've learned to fight in them. She turned to her team, seeing the same determination in their eyes. Humanity had long wondered about its place in the cosmos, sometimes feeling small against the vastness of space. But now they understood. Their greatest strength was something they had taken for granted. Their adaptability, their resilience, their ability to survive and thrive in conditions that other species considered impossible. We'll help you, Sarah declared, not just with fighting the Dominion, but with learning to survive. It's time the Federation understood that true civilization isn't about creating perfect environments. It's about adapting to imperfect ones. As she spoke, she could see the fear in the chamber being replaced by something else. Hope. The Federation had reached out to humanity expecting savage warriors. Instead, they found teachers who could show them not just how to fight, but how to truly live. Training the stars. Again. Commander Diana Williams' voice echoed across the training facility, now nicknamed Little Earth by the Federation species. The massive environmental chamber had been designed to replicate various Earth conditions, though what humans considered moderate, their alien trainees viewed as nearly lethal. A group of luminary representatives, their crystalline forms dulled with exhaustion, attempted another crossing of the extreme terrain course, which was really just a mildly rocky path with a 15-degree incline. Their normally floating forms were confined to environmental suits designed by human engineers, forcing them to actually walk on the ground. Remember your center of gravity, Diana coached, watching as one of them stumbled. You can't always rely on flotation technology. Sometimes you have to trust your own body. In another section of the facility, Dr. James Murray worked with a group of aquatic species, teaching them to handle temperature variations. The pool before him was barely tepid by human standards, but to his students, it was a challenging environment. Your ancestors evolved from creatures that could handle temperature shifts, he explained, displaying genetic data on a floating screen. That adaptability is still within you. We just need to reawaken it. The past 3 months had transformed the Federation's central training station into something unprecedented. Where once there were only perfect, controlled environments, now there were spaces deliberately designed to be imperfect, challenging, even uncomfortable. Humanity's first lesson had been simple but revolutionary. Growth comes from adversity. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck with Ambassador Vina and First Speaker Zilvan, watching the training sessions below. Your people are progressing faster than we expected, she noted, genuine pride in her voice. They are motivated by fear, Vina's translator conveyed, her crystalline form reflecting the scenes below. The crystalline dominion has claimed 3 more worlds since your arrival. Fear can be a powerful motivator, Sarah acknowledged. But what I'm seeing down there isn't just fear, it's determination. Your people are discovering strengths they never knew they had. Below them, a young Arxos researcher named Kex was leading his team through an obstacle course. His mineral-based form, usually brittle and delicate, had been reinforced using principles borrowed from Earth's geologic processes. He moved with a confidence that would have been unthinkable months ago. "Watch," Sarah pointed. "See how they're working together, supporting each other. That's not fear, that's growth." The human training program had begun with a controversial premise. Instead of trying to fight the crystalline dominion in their converted environments, they would learn to survive in them. Traditional Federation strategy relied on perfect environmental suits and automated weapons. The human approach was radically different. Adapt, endure, overcome. Incoming priority alert. The station's AI announced suddenly. Crystalline Dominion forces detected approaching the Centauri sector. The chamber erupted into activity. Sarah watched with approval as her trainees moved with purpose rather than panic. The Federation's response protocols, once reliant on retreat and automated defenses, had been completely revamped under human guidance. "Status report," she commanded, moving to the central command interface. The holographic display showed the approaching Dominion fleet, massive crystalline structures that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Centauri sector defenses are responding according to new protocols," reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station. "Environmental adaptation teams are already deploying. Civilian evacuation proceeds under the new hardship-ready protocols." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. Gone were the days when Federation citizens were helpless without their perfect environments. Now, every colony had human-designed survival shelters, every citizen had basic survival training, and every defense force had learned to operate in increasingly harsh conditions. "They're targeting the Helios colony," Vina announced, her form pulsing with concern. "Temperature readings are already rising in the outer atmosphere." "Perfect," Sarah said, surprising her alien colleagues. "Helios colony is where we stationed Commander Williams' advanced training group. Time to see if our lessons have paid off." As they watched the tactical display, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The Federation had initially seen humans as primitive beings from a death world. Now they were learning that humanity's greatest gift wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their fundamental understanding that life wasn't about avoiding challenges, but about rising to meet them. "All Federation forces, this is Captain Chen," she announced across the command channel. "Remember your training. Remember that discomfort is temporary, but adaptation is permanent. Show the Dominion that the Federation is no longer afraid of harsh conditions." As the defenders moved into position, Sarah caught sight of Kex, leading his team into their deployment pods. His crystalline exterior, once prismatic and delicate, now bore the reinforced patterns they'd developed based on Earth's metamorphic rocks. He looked up at the command center and gave a very human thumbs up, a gesture that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The Federation was changing, evolving, growing stronger, and as the crystalline Dominion approached, they were about to discover that creating harsh conditions for their enemies had suddenly become a much less effective strategy. The breaking point. The Helios colony's atmosphere burned. The crystalline Dominion's terraforming engines had pushed surface temperatures past 200 degrees Celsius, creating conditions that would have previously sent Federation forces into full retreat. But not today. Commander Diana Williams stood in her reinforced combat suit, watching her mixed team of human and Federation soldiers prepare for battle. The Luminary troops, their crystalline forms protected by Earth-inspired metamorphic armor, moved with practiced precision. The aquatic Meridian warriors, once helpless out of water, now carried portable hydration systems based on desert survival gear. "Remember your training," Diana broadcast across the tactical network. "They're counting on us to break when things get harsh. Show them what adaptability really means." Above the colony, the battle had already begun. Captain Sarah Chen commanded from the U.S. horizon, coordinating with Federation ships now equipped with heat-resistant shields based on Earth's atmospheric re-entry technology. The Dominion's massive crystalline vessels pushed forward, their usual strategy of creating uninhabitable conditions meeting unexpected resistance. Horizon to ground team. Sarah's voice crackled through the comm. They're following the expected pattern, converting the environment before launching ground forces. Current readings match Death Valley summer conditions. Diana smiled grimly. Copy that. Practically a vacation compared to our training scenarios. All teams, move to defensive positions. Remember, they've never faced enemies who could fight back in their preferred environment. The Dominion forces had always relied on environmental warfare, making conditions so extreme that their opponents' technology failed and their soldiers couldn't survive. They had never encountered species that thrived in adversity, that grew stronger when challenged. The first wave of Dominion ground forces emerged from their ships, towering crystalline beings that moved through the superheated air like it was their natural element. They advanced with the confidence of predators who expected their prey to be already weakened by the hostile conditions. Hold positions, Diana commanded. Let them think their environmental attacks are working. The Dominion forces moved closer, their crystalline forms refracting the heat-distorted light. They reached the colony's outer perimeter, where Federation forces would traditionally have already retreated from the extreme conditions. Now, Diana's order rang out. First Speaker Zilvan moved forward, their energy form stable even without the containment field they once required. The Dominion's message indicates they are confused. Their strategy of environmental warfare has failed repeatedly. They do not understand how we have changed. They assumed that creating harsh conditions would always give them an advantage. Dr. Murray added from his position near the scientific delegation. They never considered that adversity might make their opponents stronger. The chamber's display activated, showing footage from recent battles. Federation forces not just surviving but thriving in conditions that would have once been considered unsurvivable. Luminary troops operating in radiation zones, Meridian warriors adapting to pressure changes, even the plant-based Florans learning to photosynthesize in extreme light conditions. We have received similar messages from other species, Commander Williams reported, standing with her mixed team of human and Federation soldiers. Word has spread about how we've adapted. The Dominion is no longer seen as an unstoppable force. But the military victories were only part of the story. Sarah watched as Kex, the young Arxos researcher, presented data showing how Federation society had transformed. Colony designs now incorporated environmental challenges deliberately, encouraging adaptation rather than perfect control. Children were taught to embrace discomfort as a path to growth. Even art and culture had shifted, celebrating resilience rather than just harmony. When we first contacted humanity, Vina continued, her form glowing with emotion. We thought we were reaching out to warriors who could fight our battles. Instead, we found teachers who showed us a better way to live. Sarah stepped forward to address the assembly. You've achieved something remarkable, she said, looking around the chamber. Not just victory over the Dominion, but victory over fear itself. You've discovered what humanity learned long ago. That true strength comes from facing challenges, not avoiding them. The display shifted to show Federation worlds transformed not by the Dominion's attacks, but by choice. Training centers based on Earth's various environments had sprung up across Federation space. Species that once required perfect conditions now adapted to live and work together, sharing experiences and challenges that made them stronger. The Dominion's peace offer presents us with a choice. First Speaker Zilvan announced. They expect us to return to our old ways, to rebuild our perfect environments and retreat behind our environmental barriers. But I believe we have found a better path. The chamber erupted in agreement. The Federation had tasted something they had never known before, the pride of overcoming challenges, the strength that comes from adaptation, the unity forged through shared adversity. We propose a counteroffer, Vina stated. We will share what we have learned with the Dominion. Show them that there is strength in adaptation, not just in forcing others to adapt. Sarah felt a deep sense of pride as she watched the Federation representatives discuss the future. They spoke of exploration rather than isolation, of facing challenges rather than avoiding them, of growing stronger through difficulty rather than seeking perfect comfort. The Assembly's final vote was unanimous, a proposal to transform the Federation from a collection of perfectly isolated environments into a true community of species learning and growing together. They would maintain their peaceful principles but would no longer fear imperfection or challenge. As the session ended, Sarah found herself standing with Vina and Sylvan, watching the representatives mingle freely in the shared space of the chamber. "You've changed us," Vina said simply. "Not by teaching us to fight, but by teaching us not to fear." Humanity's gift to the Federation wasn't our technology or our battle tactics, Sarah replied. "It was our understanding that the universe isn't meant to be perfect. It's meant to be experienced, challenged, and overcome. That's how we grow. That's how we truly live." Above them, through the chamber's transparent dome, the stars shone with a new promise. The Federation had emerged from this crisis not just stronger, but wiser. They had learned that the greatest strength comes not from creating perfect conditions, but from building people capable of handling imperfect ones. The future would hold new challenges, new adversities, new opportunities for growth. But the Federation would face them together, no longer seeking to hide from the harsh realities of the universe, but ready to adapt, to grow, and to thrive in whatever conditions they encountered. They had learned humanity's greatest lesson, that the only perfect environment is one that challenges you to become better than you are. The defense line erupted into action. Luminary troops, their new armor allowing them to channel and redirect energy, emerged from hidden positions. Meridian warriors launched coordinated attacks, their water-based weapons modified to work in high temperatures. Human soldiers moved with practiced ease through the superheated environment, their experience in Earth's harshest climates making this just another day of operations. The Dominion forces faltered, clearly unprepared for organized resistance in conditions they had weaponized. Their tactics, reliant on environmental supremacy, suddenly seemed one-dimensional against troops trained to adapt and overcome. "They're trying to increase atmospheric pressure," reported Dr. Murray from his position in the Science Center. "Current readings match Earth's deep-sea installations." "Acknowledged," Diana responded. "All teams switched to pressure protocols, just like we practiced." The Federation troops smoothly transitioned to their high-pressure configurations, another innovation inspired by Earth's deep-sea life. The Dominion's second environmental attack proved as ineffective as their first. In orbit, the battle took another turn. "They're deploying radiation pulses," Sarah reported from the horizon, "similar to a Category 3 solar flare. These conditions are within human operational parameters," Diana reminded her troops. For the Dominion, environmental warfare isn't just a tactic. It's their only strategy. They never developed alternatives because they never needed to. Until now. The battle raged across multiple environmental extremes, but with each new condition the Dominion created, they found their opponents adapted and fought back. Federation forces, trained by humans to embrace adversity rather than fear it, turned each environmental challenge into an opportunity. Multiple Dominion ships breaking formation. Sarah's voice held careful triumph. "They're falling back from the orbital defense grid." On the ground, Diana watched as the Dominion ground forces began to retreat, their perfectly ordered formations dissolving in the face of unexpected resistance. Their environmental attacks, once their greatest weapon, had been turned into just another battlefield condition to overcome. "All teams, press the advantage," Diana ordered. "Show them that surviving isn't enough. We can fight back." The Federation troops moved forward with confidence born of hard training and harder lessons. The Luminary, once afraid of any environment they couldn't control, now moved through superheated air with practiced ease. The Meridians, adapted to handle pressure changes, pressed the attack with coordination that would have been impossible months ago. As the Dominion forces fell back to their ships, Diana realized they had achieved something more important than just defending a colony. They had shattered the myth of environmental supremacy. The Federation had learned that true strength came not from controlling the environment, but from learning to thrive in any condition. Ground team to horizon. Diana reported, watching the last Dominion ships flee the system. Colony secured. Environmental conditions returning to normal, though I think some of our troops are disappointed about that. In orbit, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Federation had just won its first major victory against the Dominion, but the real triumph was in how they had won it. Not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through the very human traits of adaptability, determination, and the willingness to face challenges head-on. The battle for Helios Colony would be remembered not just as a military victory, but as the moment the Federation truly understood humanity's greatest lesson. That strength comes not from avoiding adversity, but from learning to overcome it. Unity through adversity. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Federation looked very different from 6 months ago. Gone were the multiple environmental bubbles and protective fields that once separated species from each other. Instead, representatives sat or stood in a shared environment, their bodies adapted to handle minor discomforts that would have once sent them fleeing in terror. Ambassador Venus stood at the central podium, her crystalline form bearing the distinctive patterns of metamorphic reinforcement developed by the human engineers. The crystalline Dominion has requested peace talks, she announced, her voice carrying clearly without need of translation devices. Another adaptation inspired by human communication methods. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the human delegation section, remembering the fear that had filled this same chamber when they first arrived. Now she saw confidence in every face, every form, every energy pattern. The Federation had changed in ways that went far beyond military victory.